Hi everyone, this is the reading for chapter 12. I know we took a little break during our spring break, but we're back and I hope you remember what's been happening in the story. I know Ms. Maldonado read chapter 11 for you guys, so follow along. Let's review our vocabulary before we jump into it, and make sure you bring out your notebook with where you've been writing all your inferences, okay? Let me share my screen. Pause the video if you need to. Okay. So first word is the word idiosyncrasy. So idiosyncrasy means something that a character has that's very noticing, or something that they do that you would remember them by. So for example, the gander, he repeats 2 or 3 times the same thing, right? So that's his idiosyncrasy. So it's a distinctive, peculiar feature. That's one of his features, or one of his traits, you would say. Proceed. Proceed means to continue the action, whatever it is you're doing, you keep doing it, right? That's to proceed. Saint Vitus dance, it's a complicated dance that requires many steps and movements. So you'll hear that Charlotte mentions that she would need to know how to do the Saint Vitus dance in order to complete her web. So you'll hear that in the story or in this chapter. Baser means without moral instincts. They're referring to Templeton. Remember, he has no morals. He doesn't really care about anyone else or what happens to other people or any other animal. Instincts is a fixed pattern of behavior. So instincts is something that, for example, animals have a natural instinct to know if there's danger coming towards them, right? Also, like a fly or an insect, a lot of insects can feel or have that instinct of danger. So that's what instinct is. Quivered means tremble or shake. So in the chapter, you'll hear the word quivered, and they're referring to Templeton's whiskers. They start quivering. So listen in for that as well. Okay, so let's jump into it. I'll go ahead and start the read aloud. And if you haven't gotten your book or your notebook yet, go ahead and grab it now, okay? Okay, so chapter 12. Here we go. One evening, a few days after the writing had appeared in Charlotte's web, the spider called a meeting of all the animals in the barn cellar. I shall begin by calling the roll. Wilbur? Here, said the pig. Gander? Here, 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 said the gander. You sound like 3 ganders, muttered Charlotte. Why can't you just say here? Why do you have to repeat everything? It's my idiosyncrasy, replied the gander. Goose? Said Charlotte. Here, 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 said the goose. Charlotte glared at her. Goslings 1 through 7. Bee, 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 7 times, said the goslings. This is getting to be quite a meeting, said Charlotte. Anyone would think we had 3 ganders, 3 geese, and 21 goslings. Sheep? Hee-haw, answered the sheep all together. Lambs? Hee-haw, answered the lambs all together. Templeton? No answer. Templeton? No answer. Well, we're all here except the rat, said Charlotte. I guess we can proceed without him. Now, all of you must have noticed that we've been going on what's been going on around here the last few days. The message I wrote in my web praising Wilbur has been received. The Zuckermans have fallen for it, and so has everyone else. Zuckerman thinks Wilbur is an unusual pig, and therefore he won't want to kill him and eat him. I dare say my trick will work and Wilbur's life can be saved. Hooray, cried everybody. Thank you very much, said Charlotte. Now I called this meeting in order to get suggestions. I need new ideas for the web. People are already getting sick of reading the words some pig. If anybody can think of another message or remark, I'll be glad to weave it into the web. Any suggestions for a new slogan? Slogan is like a catchy phrase, right? Kind of like a hook. How about Pig Supreme? Asked one of the lambs. Pig Supreme? What do you think? No good, said Charlotte. It sounds like a rich dessert. How about terrific, terrific, terrific? Asked the goose. Cut that down to one terrific and it will do very nicely, said Charlotte. I think terrific might impress Suckerman. But Charlotte said, Wilbur, I'm not terrific. That doesn't make a particle of difference, replied Charlotte. Not a particle. People believe almost anything they see in print. Does anybody here know how to spell terrific? I think, said the gander, it's T, double E, double R, double R, double I, double F, double I, double C, 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 C. What kind of an acrobat do you think I am? Said Charlotte in disgust. I would have to have St. Vitus's dance to weave a word like that into my web. Sorry, said the gander. Then the oldest sheep spoke up. I agree that there should be something new written in the web if Wilbur's life is to be saved. And if Charlotte needs help in finding words, I think she can get it from our friend Templeton. The rat visits the dump regularly and has access to old magazines. He can tear out bits of advertisement and bring them up here to the barn cellar so that Charlotte can have something to copy. Good idea, said Charlotte, but I'm not sure if Templeton will be willing to help. You know how he is, how he's always looking out for himself, never thinking of other fellow. I bet I can get him to help, said old sheep. I'll appeal to his baser instincts, of which he has plenty. Here he comes now. Everybody keep quiet while I put the matter up to him. The rat entered the barn the way he always did, creeping along close to the wall. What's up? He asked, seeing the animals assembled. We're holding a director's meeting, replied the old sheep. Well, break it up, said Templeton. Meetings bore me, and the rat began to climb a rope that hung against the wall. Look, said the old sheep, next time you go to the dump, Templeton, bring back a clipping from a magazine. Charlotte needs new ideas so she can write messages in her web and save Wilbur's life. Let him die, said the rat. I should worry. You'll worry all right when next winter comes, said the sheep. You'll worry all right on a zero morning next January when Wilbur is dead and nobody comes down here with a nice pail of warm slops to pour onto the trough. Wilbur's leftover food is your chief source of supply, Templeton. You know that. Wilbur's food is your food. Therefore, Wilbur's destiny and your destiny are closely linked. If Wilbur is killed and his trough stands empty day after day, you'll grow so thin we can look right through your stomach and see objects on the other side. Templeton's whiskers quivered. Maybe you're right, he said gruffly. I'm making a trip to the dump tomorrow afternoon. I'll bring back a magazine clipping if I can find one. Thanks, said Charlotte. The meeting is now adjourned. That means that it's done, it's finished. I have a busy evening ahead of me. I've got to tear my web apart and write terrific. Wilbur blushed. But I'm not terrific, Charlotte. I'm just about average for a pig. You're terrific as far as I'm concerned, replied Charlotte sweetly. And that's what counts. You're my best friend, and I think you're sensational. Now stop arguing and go get some sleep. Okay. So that was the end of chapter 12. Let's go back to our slide. And I want you to think about Templeton, because that's the question I'm going to be asking, or that's the character we're going to be concentrating on our slide, okay? So this one's a little different. I didn't make it to where it was an inference question. I wrote confirm traits of a character. So in the chapter, you hear them confirm, right? Telling you how or what type of character Templeton is. So I want you to think right now, what type of character is Templeton? Think back to what Charlotte said when they were gonna ask Templeton for help. What did she say? Okay. If you have it, do your 3 columns and start writing. What did Charlotte say? Remember they said we should ask Templeton to bring some clippings of magazines. And what was Charlotte's response? Okay, pause the video if you have to. I'm gonna start typing, but if you still need more time, go ahead and pause so you can write down your answer, okay? So confirm traits of a character. So Templeton is again described on Templeton's, I'm gonna add Templeton's traits. Templeton's traits are again described by the farm animals. So if you wrote down what traits or what the farm animals were talking or is discussing or thinking about Templeton, we need to add some textual evidence on our next column. So I kind of gave you a little clue on what Charlotte, right? What did Charlotte say? I'll read it to you. He can tear out bits of advertisements and bring them up here to the barn cellar so that Charlotte can have something to copy, right? Good idea, said Charlotte, but I'm not sure Templeton will be willing to help. You know how he is always looking out for himself, never thinking of the other fellow. Okay, so that's my textual evidence right there. So I'm going to write that down. So on page, I know this because on page 89, Charlotte reminds everyone about what type of character Templeton is. She quote, right? Let's quote. She says, never thinking of other fellow, right? You know how he is, always looking out for himself. So she says this, you know how he is, always looking out for himself. Never thinking of the other fellow. Yep. And fellow means that he's not thinking about anyone else. He only cares about him, right? So he is very selfish, right? That would be his trait. He's a selfish character in this book. So now I have the next column here. I wrote, what changes or transformations do you see? Do you see Templeton in this chapter? Do you see him transform or change his idea, or we are already assuming in the middle of the chapter that he's not going to help? But then what happens at the end? What? I want you to think. Is there a transformation in this character in this chapter? pause so you can go ahead and write down your response, and I'll start typing mine, okay? There is a transformation in the chapter. Templeton agrees to help, but only because the sheep clearly explains his faith, right? Like what's gonna happen to him. Explains his faith or slash his like his demise, what's gonna end him, right? Explains his faith if Wilbur sorry, I'm trying to fix this one. Faith if Wilbur dies. So we do see a transformation. He's not, we already know that like he's not gonna help out, right? He doesn't care about anyone else, but then you do see him do this quick transformation. He's like, okay, I'll help out. And just because, why? Because sheep just told him, if Wilbur dies, you're gonna die as well, right? You're gonna get really thin and probably suffer because your food comes from the trough from where they feed Wilbur. So if there's no Wilbur, they're not gonna bring any food. So then what happens to Templeton? Eventually he would die as well. Yeah, so those are my textual evidence, and I see we just wrote down a transformation of character right there. So think about, after listening to this chapter, if you need to listen to it one more time, go ahead and play back the video. But what would you title this chapter? What would you give it, or what title would you give it? Okay, so here's your question or your phrase. I would title this chapter because. Okay, so if you need to hear it one more time, listen into it or listen to it again, and then complete this last sentence here. And let me share, of course, I want you to make sure that after you're done with this, you write your own summary of the story. So listening to the story one more time would be great, just so you can write your summary. I'm going to share my summary with you, and you can go ahead after that and write your own. Don't write the exact same one I have, okay? Use your own words, okay? So I'll share, this one is the summary that I wrote, and I'm gonna read it off my notebook so it can be a little easier for me. So chapter 12 says, Charlotte is realizing that people will soon be tired of seeing the same message on her web and has gathered a meeting to discuss the options. She calls Roe to ensure all animals can give their input on the next message Charlotte should weave into her web. All are present but Templeton. They agree that the next message should say, terrific. When Templeton arrives, he doesn't care whether Wilbur lives or dies until the old sheep explains what would happen to him if Wilbur dies. He agrees to bring cutouts of magazines from the dump to help with spelling and possible new messages Charlotte can use. Wilbur has doubts over the message. He doesn't believe he's terrific, but Charlotte explains that he is to her, and that's all that matters. Okay, that was my summary. So I want you to come up with your summary. Again, if you need to listen to the chapter again, go ahead and play back the video so you can listen in, okay? Thank you guys. Make sure you complete your summary, and I'll see you guys on the next read aloud. Thanks.